going to, as I said, give like a thumbnail sketch of the topics that we have in the course and what might be some of the techniques that are there, although of course the actual techniques that you will read about will be the specific paper. Okay. And then before we get there, I think I said I had a single line in the previous slide about what human aware AI system should be able to do, which is anticipate, help, and whatever the other things are, collaborate, and provide explanations. And I'm kind of rewriting them in a like a more fleshed out form here. You can add more in terms of what you think a system that you want to work with should have as its abilities. You know, if it's going to be your teammate, if an AI system is going to be your teammate, then what else do you want? But I assume that one thing is you want the system to read you, read humans. Okay, basically read their facial expressions, read what they are trying to do, get a sense of where they're going to go. So the perception, of course, there are challenges from perception. Basically, you know, emotion recognition from the face or from the voice is a big thing, you know, for human AI systems. Sarcasm also probably important because we are extremely good at using sarcasm with each other, and if the machines don't understand it, you know, they do it literally. So perception should challenges in basically include both emotion, the facial perception, facial recognition, facial expression perception, as well as the voice perception, as well as most importantly, this more abstract thing called emotional perception. Because notice that we don't wear emotions on the face. You know, what would be helpful given the emoji culture that we have is when I laugh, I put my laugh face. But unfortunately, that's not what we are doing. Like, we should have a sarcasm face, a laugh face, etc. Help the juniors. Apparently, we have all become juniors because we read those. In the old days, in fact, believe it or not, we would write emails without actually putting a smiley. If it is supposed to be, you know, funny, you should know it just from the mail. You know, and of course, when the laugh track was invented, you know, much later in the sitcom industry, in the old days, people just assumed that if there is a joke, that people will get. You know. So the emotional perception essentially is you're taking some combination of all the, you know, the perceptual information that you're getting from the face, from the voice, and you are ascribing a particular emotion to the agent. Okay, that's a sort of a higher level thing. Okay, so they should be able to perceive that. They should also be able to anticipate the goals, intentions, and of the humans, and then what actions they're trying to do. So the point is that just to live in an environment, an AI system needs to be able to see the environment. But if the environment includes humans, a human is not just another rock, okay, or another refrigerator. It basically has all these additional pieces that come in terms of tracking. And then show helpful behavior. So at the minimum, avoid getting in their way. Maybe provide appropriate effect. If you do nothing in a team, and this is all useful stuff for you guys who actually don't have emotional and social intelligence and will be doing team projects. So if you do nothing at all for your team, at least when your friends are basically spending the whole entire night working on the code or writing the paper, don't say, hey, you guys are losers. That's not good. It really is so bad that you guys have to work so hard and they have to see this movie or something. And so that they show the proper emotion. So if you don't have the emotion, at least fake it, okay? Because people expect it. And if you don't show the right emotion, they get mad. And the same thing with the machines. If they don't show the right emotion, you know, in fact, this issue of why we have emotions, whether or not emotions have been a net benefit or net negative for human race, is something that we don't yet have a closure on. It's not clear. Okay, we have it. That's it. You know, I mean, why do we have 10 fingers? Why do we have emotions? We have all that stuff. Okay, but the question is, we can't turn them off, and we expect things that we interact with other people to understand. If they don't, then we can't interact with them. And so it becomes important that if the machines do not understand emotion, it's not that I'm saying this. How many of you know what this is? Clippy, the paperclip. It's the original, amazingly human-aware AI system. That's what it was. And so it was supposed to come up when you are having trouble using Microsoft Office, which is pretty much all the time, and then provide useful help for you. Okay, and it was basically apparently such a bad disaster, and it has beautiful technology behind it. It had all the stuff on Bayesian inference, and so on, diagnosis and so on in the back of it. But it was not particularly well liked. And to put that in perspective, it said that when Bill Gates got up in one of the developer conferences and said we are going to retire Clippy, there was spontaneous applause.
Yeah.
Like, in general, if you say I'm going to retire and people clap, 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 again that's an emotional recognition. That means they're so happy that you're dead. But in general, people are unhappy. And why? And Rosalind Picard, who actually works in effective computing, she said this interesting point, which is something that I'll refer to you, which is, think of this guy's expression. Always smug, right? When does it come up? Exactly when you're stuck. Do you want somebody to come with a smug face when you're stuck on something? So that's like, it's like even if they're giving useful information, you just feel like slapping them on the face. And so again, effective, show appropriate affect becomes important. So you don't necessarily have to feel the emotion. It's not at all clear to me whether AI should have emotion. I mean, I'm sure that Hollywood thinks that AI should have emotion, because why would people watch the movie unless the robot starts having introspective movements? Okay, who the heck cares? That's not required from the point of view of any performance metric. Although, of course, that you should internally have emotions, but you certainly have to fake it. And to fake it, you need to understand when to show what emotions. And the sad part, we will read some papers, a couple of papers on effective computing. The sad part is there are almost like cut and dried rules on when to show what. It's not that hard. I mean, there are exceptions, but there are some reasonable cut and dried rules as to when to show what kind of emotion. And people basically compute those emotions and they show it. Now, of course, when you say that a human is showing calculated emotions, that is never said in a good way. That means they are calculating in general is not a good thing to say outside of engineering, okay? Because that's not a good adjective to use. But basically, you can do that and you can show proper effect. And of course, then provide proactive help in the task. So minimum, don't get in their way. And middle level, at least show the right kind of emotions. This is for your team, okay? And then, of course, provide proactive support for your teammates. The other thing is be scrutable. Okay. Now, again, some of these, clearly, this is certainly not there if there's a human not in the loop. There's no human in the loop. Then why do you need to show emotional? I mean, robots don't have to. I mean, despite what C3PO does and R2D2 does, they don't actually have to show emotions to each other. They're only showing it because you paid money to go to see the movie and you expect them to show emotions. They don't need to essentially have an emotional conversation, Okay, that's what very useful to have in mind. So really they just come to calculate, which also brings up all these issues of can they manipulate you unethically by just showing sad face. I mean, I said social robotics, there are actually a couple of other conferences for social robotics. They're full of these kinds of funny experiments that they'll say. One title that comes to my mind is, people like robots which help other robots. This is the title of a paper. And they actually did experiments where this, basically they set up these stage rings, and then where one robot is there, like a, basically curmudgeonly robot, which is basically pushing off the other robot out of the way. And a second robot is kind of nice and sort of, that's this companion. And then when you ask people which robot do you like, they always go for, which one. But anyway, so the point is that we essentially we expect that affect is shown, and then otherwise, even though it's calculated, we fall for it. Okay. And then the be scrutable part is another thing which is very important when the humans are in the loop, because Neuralink is nowhere near to be found. And so essentially you don't know what's going on in the robot's mind, in the AI system's mind. And the AI system doesn't know what's going on in your mind. So we track each other all the time. We're making assumptions on what other person's current beliefs, intentions, and desires are. And based on that, we try to be comprehensible to them. Okay, that involves, for example, in addition to understanding what the agent is trying to do, which is anticipation of their goals and intents, you need to give a heads up, saying this is what I'm going to do. Okay, and so that people are prepared. So in fact, there are all sorts of interesting things where you can show that you want to show behavior that basically, first of all, you try to say that this is what I'm trying to do. And so that they must know in the loop. Okay, you give me a heads up. And then you also, when you show the behavior, try to show the behavior that doesn't require additional explanation. Okay, that's basically explicable behavior. There are certain kinds of things that you currently expect me to do, which is, walk around and talk. Okay, certain other kinds of things that you don't expect me to do, which is such as, stand up on this chair or jump onto the table, etc. All of which are reasonable things for me to do, but you may not like it. Because, not necessarily because I'm hurting you, but because you didn't expect me to do it. Why are you doing it? Okay, and so try not to jump around, try not to basically do a behavior that would be surprising to the person, the teammate, unless of course they pay to be surprised. Okay, and then even if in fact try to do the suitable behavior, try to do what you are expected to do, even if in fact doing that is actually costly. Okay, there are examples in our cultures actually, but I'll give you a very simple one. So imagine, like for example, suddenly a bee started biting me in the back of my head. Okay, at this point, my explicable behavior should be, you don't see me, don't see the bee, right, and it's biting me. So I still have to continue talking because I don't want to lose the track of the thing, and you don't expect me to jump up. That's very costly because it's biting the heck out of me in the back. Okay, and so then if I basically decide, so then I decided to show the explicable. One day you might be sick and you still show up for the work because you're expected to show up. Okay, and if you cannot show up, if it's too costly, then you should be able to provide explanations. So in my contrived bee example, I start jumping and saying, oh my God, there's a bee. And then all of you will also start jumping. You will be fine. Okay, because at least I provide an explanation. Okay, so in general, you try not to provide explanations. In a fluid teaming scenario, people tend to say they work wordlessly. It's as if the best teams don't even have to talk to each other. They sort of read each other's minds and then wordlessly work, right? And so explanations are a last resort. So if you actually do what people expect you to do, then you don't have to provide explanations. But on the other hand, sometimes if people are bozos, what they expect you to do would be suboptimal things. And so you actually want to do the optimal thing for both you and them, and then provide them an explanation. Okay? That winds up being important. And then the explanations, again, one of the issues that becomes clear is that they have to be tailored to the level, the model that the humans, in that particular human has. Any explanation. So you don't provide a calculus level explanation to people in grade school. You don't provide, you basically tailor the explanation of phenomena to the level of people's knowledge. Okay. So I mean, I like this one because this is the Far Side cartoon where this guy is obviously giving a very long explanation to his dog about why he's been a bad boy. I don't know if you can read this, but then all the dog gets is the dog's name, nothing else. Because clearly it has no model of what it is that is based on. And we do this when we wind up providing explanations that are not tailored to the model of the person. And this becomes extremely important, generally important in general in teaching, and becomes very important in certain kinds of teaching, such as tutoring systems, where you're trying to help the student do better. So if you don't give an explanation that makes sense to them, basically just waste it. Okay. So anything else that you want systems working with humans show, AI systems working with humans show? Yes.
On trust with the human, like some human maybe easily.
So engender trust.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's saying all of this is so that you can engender trust. I mean, I can write that, but I'll write it here. And actually, it is an interesting point to be said there. You know, first of all, the word to make people trust you, you say engender trust. That's what it is. You know, so it used to English lesson. But more importantly, once you make people trust you, all of this is no longer needed. You understand what I just said? Everything has an exception. HAI has an exception, which is, you know, it's like, it's a bozo, but it's my bozo. You know, this is my system, and I understand. I trust it, so it's fine. I just not get mad. And we do it all the time. I mean, I have lots and lots of examples, so I'll give you one because I cannot avoid it. I have to share this. Some of my students know this, which is we provide all sorts of random explanations, which basically cut off the reasons why we like, dislike things. You know, so my anecdote on this is Rutherford, who is a physicist. You know, he's an experimental physicist. He hated theoretical physics. You know, within the physics community, experimentals hate theoretical physics and vice versa. But he loved Niels Bohr. Okay, Niels Bohr is as theoretical as they can, right? And so people will go to Rutherford and say, Ernest, you know, you're being inconsistent. Clearly, you hate theoreticians. Niels Bohr is as theoretical as he is. How can you like him? This is completely different. He's an athlete. Now, do you see the explanation? So everything can be changed. I mean, part of the human, you know, I mean, this is obviously a very strange example, but in general, we do, once you actually engender trust in people, they will give you benefit of doubt in many of these things. You see what I'm saying? And that's why, you know, how many of you have seen the movie called Sting? Again, this is a problem with young kids. Go see this. It has nothing to do with AI, but it's everything to do with humans interacting with humans. Robert Redford and Paul Newman, how bad can you do? Right? And but see the movie, and it's, I mean, if you haven't seen it, I won't say anything. I'll say that when you see it, you know why. But in general, you know, engendering trust is something that allows you to use. I mean, if you engender trust in somebody now, then you can misuse it later. Okay, so these use case scenarios, I gave some examples. I mean, those of you who looked at the paper that I suggested you take a look at, gave you some specific fleshed out examples in the context of human and a physical embodied robot working in a scenario. I won't actually go into it other than just mention it that. So sometimes you will revise your belief about what the human is doing, or you actually make them revise their belief about what you're doing. You, the AI system, have to infer what their mental state is. You need to understand whether they are overworked or underworked. You kind of have to understand the social laws that are implicit oftentimes. You want to coordinate your activities based on, you know, understanding of each other's mental models. All of them basically are described in those paragraphs. And then you want to be able to predict what the person is going to say next, where they're going to be next, and you want to have a sense of their capabilities so that you can help them. Certain things humans are not able to do, then you should be able to help them in those cases. Certain things they're able to do, you don't want to help them. You don't really want a Baxter robot trying to take the banana that you're trying to eat out of your hands and try to feed you, help you. That's not a thing that you do even to your friends. And suddenly you don't want the Baxter robot to do it for you. Because people know how to eat bananas. Okay. On the other hand, if they need to lift a 16-ton weight, you want to help them. It's because you have a sense of what people's capabilities are and what people's capabilities are not. And then there's this other thing. You see somebody running very fast, you don't say, stop, I will run for you. It may be that they're just getting some reward out of running. again, you have to not only understand the capabilities, you have to understand the reward metrics. Okay. So there are some interesting examples of that kind here, and those sorts of places where the capabilities. One of the interesting things that you can do when you go home is look at each of these and see which of these capabilities is being exercised here. Which of these AI systems capabilities is being exercised to be able to do that. Okay, this already mentioned once. There are really different roles for human and AI when they are together. Human and AI systems, human and computer systems in general, but AI systems. Okay, when they're together, one can be that AI is an assisting tool. Computer is a tool. Okay, so what's the difference between why not human-aware computing? What's the difference between human-aware computing and human-aware AI? Right? You have to ask yourself, why not that? Maybe we can have an even bigger course. Everybody can come here. Okay, so one of the interesting things is there's a beautiful thing that an anthropologist once said in a meeting I was in, that the moment people see something as a partner rather than as a tool, their expectations change completely. Okay, even though you once in a while hit the computer because the stupid computer is not doing the right thing, even while you're doing it, you know that you're being silly. Because it's a tool. Okay, but you hold grudges not against computers, you hold grudges against people. Because you think of people as teammates, partners, collaborators, not tools. And one of the interesting points he made is, humans are what the humans are. One of the interesting things is in human-aware AI, the controllable variable is AI. I hope so. Hope you understand that. I mean, a much better way of doing human-aware AI systems is send a broadcast message tonight saying all humans should learn how to deal with AI. Okay, this is it. We are telling you so. But I mean, that's like a sad life. I mean, first of all, that makes my life much easier. I have nothing to solve. But on the other hand, we are masochists. We want something to solve. And there's nothing to solve by asking people to do something because anyway they won't do it. Like, and they are completely uncontrollable variable and you don't want to control them either. So really what you want is, you want the human AI teaming work well by giving mostly, by designing the AI's behavior. The AI system's behavior, because that's the thing that's controllable. Okay, you could of course say, basically when there are, in factories when there are machines and so on, actually they might say, well, you guys take a class on how to use this machine. That is human-machine teaming where humans are learning how to deal with the machine. Okay, my hope is that in fact the AI systems case it should be the opposite. The AI system should learn how to deal with the humans. In general, across technology, we handle technology by going into the land of the technology rather than the technology coming into our land. Okay, so we used to deal with AI systems, and there's still some work in humans controlling, humans working with AI systems in the loop, but typically that would involve humans going into the innards of the AI system. So for example, there is like this whole area called mixed initiative planning, which involved humans essentially changing the search queues of the AI system search process. These clearly are humans who have no life. You can find them in graduate schools, you can find them if you pay them enough money, in internships, but that's not our customers. Like you want people who have a life and they are not going to change their behavior. If they need to change their behavior, it should be through the AI system's actions by providing, look, I'm going to be in this corner of the room now. I projected my intention. If you still don't want to listen to me, what can I do? Okay, it's worthwhile remembering that the controllable variable in this is the machine, the AI system. Okay, yes?
Isn't the goal of AI in general that we want to make machines that can think for themselves? So
Yeah.
instead of as you are saying in the human-aware AI is the controllable part. But wouldn't it be better if the systems are designed in such a way, from start itself, we don't need to control them? they can actually like.
No. Okay, so that's actually an interesting question of, is there something to be done in AI, or all you need is give a huge amount of data and let the kind of neural evolution take its course. Come back some number of years later and hope for some very intelligence to come. I think even in general, in most cases, you design AI systems. Even if you be a big believer in, let's say, purely neural network-based approaches, you are designing the heck out of those architectures. So that's what I mean by controlling it. For example, you may be, if you are a big neural network aficionado, you might be saying, this is the way the attention should be done in this particular task. But you don't tell people, don't look at the robot when it's looking at you this way, look at it this way. That makes no sense. That's like, again, giving lessons to humans as to how to get into the land of the robot, as against the other way. I mean, I'm not saying it's a useful thing to do. In fact, all the factories, train their workers to get along with the machines. They don't train the machines to get along with the workers. That's what we try to do here. Okay? Yes?
Sir, along with the concept of trust, there's also the sense of status which comes in humans. In that their behavior with respect to each other is determined by their perception of their level in society. I think human-aware AI machines should also, how does a human-aware
Possibly, I don't know. I'm not going that far, but yeah, I mean, there could be an entire hierarchy, I guess, but I'm not going into that. I mean, I can't argue against that. But I'm not talking about it. Okay, so AI is an assistive tool, AI is an agent who is sort of just hanging around in the same ecosystem as humans. It's like, I don't know how many of you have seen the Humans series in Amazon? Okay, yeah, so they also collaborate, but mostly they also just have their own strike. So in a sense, in general, just cohabiting is different from actually actively collaborating. Okay. And then, of course, AI is a teammate, collaborator, and then even there are multiple differences. The human can be in the master state, that is, human knows best. Okay, and so if I disagree with the human, then I am wrong, the human is right. Okay, you can say that human in a peer-to-peer role, in which case you correct the human's perceptions, the human can correct your perceptions. It's the same thing again, team. Whenever I'm saying this, these are all basically team dynamics. You can have a team where one person is the boss and you don't ever question the boss. Other case, you are both equals. And the other case, you are teaching, and the other person is the student. And things do change in terms of some of the ways you handle different challenges. It changes as to what the goals are. In many of our papers, we typically look at human in the peer role, but we will see things in other places. And then the AI as an assistive tool can actually basically be, a tool which slowly starts anticipating what you are doing and starts providing help before you ask and so on. That crosses from just being a sort of a reactive tool that does what you expect it to do versus it tracks your state. At that point, somewhere in that spectrum, the tool becomes a partner. Okay? Okay, so this is the topics thing. I'm not really sure how I'm going to go through, but I will show like one slide. My hope was originally, I thought there was a large amount of time for us today. So I was going to show one slide for each of these topics and say something about them, just so that you have something to hang on to. And then we will actually read papers, at least one paper for each of these topics. That's it basically. Before I do that, in the next half hour, by significantly speaking significantly faster, what else? Are there any questions? Yes.
So, given there is a paper in the emails about
The one I sent.
yeah, the one.
Okay.
So, how much do you expect us to actually know for the
Everything.
future classes?
Everything.
No, so for the discussions.
That's basically, I mean, it's a seminar is a, okay, so actually, you have taken these classes. I am the master, you are student, not student. Okay. These kinds of classes. And whatever you know. Okay. A seminar is basically that these are these. I really hope to be in this place, that you teach me by the end of the semester, because you get more into the paper than I did. Okay. But a seminar is really peer-to-peer discussion in idea. I understand not all of you are exactly the same level, but hopefully by everybody looks into a different part of the paper and then the discussion is supposed to happen. At least this is what it's supposed to happen. And as I said, I'm myself skeptical about seminars, which teaching. Okay, but if it works, then yeah, you should get as much as you can, and there is no problem. I know that it's not an answer that you're looking for. Now, what's the passing grade? I don't know. That's the basic problem. It's like I want us to be able to cover. This is what happens when you do research. People, a bunch of people, but in a reading group, people read a bunch of people read a paper and they discuss it. And the best cases, everybody reads them and they try to kind of see aspects that others haven't seen, and then they help each other. In the worst cases, one person reads and rolls on in the front of the room, other people check their name. Okay. The second possibility won't happen because you don't get to check name in this class if you're taking it from grade. But so we have to have critical discussion. Yes.
Will you be posting the slides on Blackboard?
Not Blackboard, Piazza. I hate Blackboard. I think Blackboard has become Canvas anyway, or will become Canvas. So I have sent Piazza for those of you who are already registered, but I'll again do it for whoever else has registered. And that basically has everything. In fact, these slides are supposed to be there. I just didn't read them correctly. But I mean, anybody else who does discussions, when students do the presentations, they will have discussions, they will have slides and they will do it.
The link is different in the.
I understand. I think you said that, but people didn't let me change the link. I was just talking to people and then I had to go ahead. I will do it after this class. Right now you can see. Yes.
I'd like to rephrase my question.
Okay.
Rephrase question is, what do you expect in the overview of the research paper that you have to submit before the day?
We will give a little more guidance, but and you will hopefully know more as time goes on. Okay. We will give you some guidance. So, basically we say answer the following question. But it won't be multiple choice. Is the paper good or bad?
What's the current state of human AI? Are we doing as good as God is complaining to us? Because like you showed that examples and
It's a very,
it feels
very,
like dogs
very,
can-
very, very good question,
Yeah.
actually. I think there are, no, I don't think we have good enough robot dogs yet. I mean, what's his name? Mark Raybert's robot dog, which will basically jump on you and kill you. There is no one, I think it's actually, in fact, by the way, that's a very interesting way of, we basically just look at humans and AI. And we didn't look at